Hello, everyone. I am Terry Candlestick, and welcome back to Echo. This is Route 65. I think everyone has Route 65 somewhere in their preferred route order. And because Route 65 deals primarily with the two main characters of the previous route that we did, Leo, I thought it would be a good time to do it here. Plus, I think that's also how many people, I think, like the official route order is set up. It has Route 65 after Leo, but before some of the other ones. And I have read it before, but I also wanted to do it for the channel because it is an awesome story, a great prequel, and it gives us some hints about who all these folks used to be, especially some very special foxes. Shouldn't be a spoiler. All right. So I'm excited to do it. Let's see. I've been trying to get this out too, but I changed microphones, so everything's wrong. Hopefully it doesn't affect it too much. So let's get started. Oh, I love that. The opening van. Okay, here we go. There was a very singular echo in this ravine. The rattling of wagons resembled carpenters' hammers at board inside the highest rocks. The report of a rifle resembles a sharp crack of thunder and echoes from rock to rock. The lowing of cattle, the braying of mules seemed to be answered beyond the mountains. Music most notably had a very queer effect and resembled a person standing inside the rock imitating every note. William Clayton, Mormon Trail Pioneer. Uh-oh. Everyone, Mom's calling. Check your phones. Mom's calling. I can answer, Mom. Oh, God. I can't deal with this right now. I stare at the screen, letting my phone vibrate until it stops. I'll try to make up an excuse that it was on silent later. I had been a cringing, flustered mess since this morning. School and my geometry test had kept me only slightly distracted. With the call as a reminder, I feel a welling sensation around my eyes and my vision blurs. I suck at my cheeks before exuding a shaky exhale. Nothing will ever be the same again. My parents won't see me as normal anymore. All because I was daft enough to try to rub one out on the computer before the bus came this morning. I thought they were at work. Mom was usually out by 5, and Dad by 6. But they took the day off on account it's their anniversary. Not only did they catch me pants down, prick in hand, but also found out I was gay in one fell swoop of headphone-induced lack of spatial awareness. I heard Mom scream. I was so startled I jumped, my headphones coming unplugged from my laptop, blasting Fox Stallion porn on full blast. Just when my dad came running in. I remember Mom turned, went to her room, locked the door, and I didn't see her again before I left. Dad, meanwhile, was sort of laughing nervously before I took off to my bus stop. But I could tell from his face that this was beyond awkward for him. I couldn't bring myself to words. I just pulled up my shorts and ran to my bus stop. All throughout the day, the thought of coming home and having to face the shame was like being dunked in ice water. Each mile we travel closer to Echo increases that feeling of inevitable awfulness. Try to go over excuses in my head. I could maybe attempt to convince them that it was straight porn. Both of the guys in the video had pretty visible beard scruff, though. I rubbed my eyes. The thought of trying to figure out all my folks saw on the screen makes me want to retch. Well, I could say it was a virus that took control of my browser window. And it was so startling a prospect that I didn't have time to fully put on my shorts. And the erection was unrelated. Fuck. I peeked through my paws at my phone screen, the symbol for a missed voicemail having appeared up top. I gripped my teeth in extreme apprehension, turning the screen off and shoving my phone back into my pocket. Taking a moment to recombobulate, I look around. The bus is pretty empty besides me, the bus driver, who has been trying to get the radio to work the whole ride, and Carl in the seat adjacent to me. Carl, as usual, has his earbuds in with his expensive handheld out, playing some Japanese tactics RPG. Usually we have at least Jeremy, Clint, Heather, Jasmine, and TJ with us, but not today. Not many kids who go to school in Peyton live out in Echo. I'm pretty astonished the bus district expansion covered our town. The bus ride from Peyton to Echo usually takes about 45 minutes, though it feels much longer. Especially now. 2008, I thought it was 2010. Oh, did I get that wrong? Day of the Dead, let's go. Yeah. The Ram looks up from his game to the source of the music, slightly furrow-browed. Our bus driver grins back at him through the rear mirror in a self-satisfied fashion, her gummy Cheshire Mall on full yet brief display. Realizing that she is looking back at him, Carl grunts, hunching up his shoulders a bit. Karen, why? And yes, I'm going to use their original voices. I won't try to get them as kids. She lets out a brief chortle. Well, seeing as I only have the two along with me today, I thought I'd put on some tunes. Make your collar a little blue. Carl begrudgingly pauses his game, pulling out his earbuds and letting them hang over his horns. It was still weird seeing him like this. Around age 14, his horns developed a lot. He complained about headaches and neck strain constantly. He told me he had to see a chiropractor in a state over because his horns were so big and his neck muscles hadn't developed enough to support them. Even now, a year later, he still sits with a sort of low, hunched posture. I'm plenty blue-collared, yeah? I live in Echo. She smirks again. Boy, I have seen the size of your manna. No, you ain't. Never would have expected a sort like you to be so pumping Yahtzee-blooded. Carl doesn't say anything. His emerald gaze shifts some to the seat in front of him. Karen takes a glug of her soda bottle with her free hand, the other steering us through an on-ramp onto the freeway. The spa day I would have on just 1 hour of your daddy's income? I'd feel bad for whoever works mani-pedi that shift. She holds up her calloused right hand, her claws rather stubbed, even for a fox's standard. When I'm not driving you squirts, I do road crew for public works. Ain't your average mom, eh? She gesticulates with a swirling motion as she speaks, then lets her hand hang limply on the steering wheel. Well, it might be the new average here soon enough. Feminism and all that. You two will learn all about in college, I'm sure. What are you two going for, major-wise? Both of us make no quick move to respond. Case? I shift some in my seat, clearing my throat so that my voice doesn't creak. Well, I wanted to go into videography and film, but my parents weren't too fond of that. So, I guess journalism or communications? Karen responds so abruptly that it makes me wonder if I said something wrong. Well, my nephew got one of them communication degrees from North Mountain State. Oh? How'd that go? Ended up being a $60,000 piece of paper that earns him $13.25 an hour fixing old farts like us computers out of some big box establishment. Nerd Squad, I think they're called. If I know. I'm still deciding, I guess. She waves dismissively, looking over at Carl, who looks like all he wants to do is go back to playing his game. What about you, bighorns? Carl blinks some at the casual speciesism, then scratches the back of his neck. You just plan on going straight to work for your daddy right after you graduate?
Mommy, Mom, actually, I don't know yet.
Carl looks pretty uneasy with this topic. He also seems pretty embarrassed at having said mommy out loud. Were I in better spirits, I'd probably laugh. Everyone's good at something, Carl. And hopefully that's something you enjoy, too. You're always quiet with your nose in that little device of yours playing games. Maybe that's your future career, something techie. Admittedly, Leo is usually the one who is most handy with fixing our tech stuff. Carl isn't even the best at video games. That title belongs to Chaz. Carl was quiet for a bit, tugging on the strings of his hoodie.
I don't know.
Looking out the window, I see the sun is setting as we get within 10 or so miles of Echo. We pass the old abandoned water park, which I heard closed shortly after the bypass was built, and all its passerby traffic was lost. I think for a moment I see what looks like some figures in the drained pool, though when I try to squint I don't see them anymore. Yeah, no, I was around when that place shut down. I startle some, not realizing I was being watched. Both times, actually. Once in the 60s, then again in the 80s when it reopened a year. It was during the era of big government giving out big old water project constructions to the state for pennies. LA being the golden child. All county, as you two squirts are aware, did not become the next Orange County. Spoilers, as my son Keith used to say. She lets out an amused grunt before stirring up some. A lot of folks lost their jobs. It was like a little Great Depression in the middle of Mormon land. Echo has been going to tits for generations, though. And not the good sort of tits either. The real ugly ones. Like those... that... what's her name yields? Miss Tethers? Yeah, that's her. I'm taken off guard at that comment. Miss Tethers is a particularly nasty history teacher at PHS who is known for not being too keen on vulpines. She does have a kinda lopsided pair. Anyway, it's a ripe shame. By the time your kitties are having kitties themselves, this town will be a feast for termites. Well, maybe not the manor. I see Karen's silver eyes shift on Carl. The castle, we used to call it. She says this bit rather strangely, as if trying to remember something specific. And Carl was staring out the window, avoiding Karen's stare. In the 2 years we've had her as a bus driver, she has never spoken this much. Most of the time, she'd just be scolding Jeremy and Clint. I have this feeling she's been waiting for this opportunity to speak more personally with Carl for a while. As we get closer to Echo, we pass more abandoned places. Some are adorned with faded Art Deco stylings from the bygone modern era, whilst others are but rotting wood from the Mormon settlement days. In my current situation, all these familiar architectural fadings seem to invoke is a pulsating sense of dread for what is to come. Carl, your family has been here for over a century. Way I see it, least they could do is reinvest in what they capitalized on in the first place.
Could you just change the radio station?
Carl's horns are pressed up against the window, his tone low but his voice loud. Oh yeah? What you want to say too?
Anything but this.
Carl looks down at his handheld, fidgeting with stuff in the character screen but without the focus to actually keep playing. Fine. What do you want to listen to, Chase? It's probably country right now. Want to torment Carl? No. Not random. Soft rock. I always like soft rock. I'm gonna go soft rock. A little about me. I like soft rock. Boink. I don't know. We might be able to get that soft rock station that is sometimes available right before we get into town. What did you say? You want this but louder? All right.
No.
No. No.
Jace, kill me. End my life. Maybe I'll respawn somewhere more peaceful.
This is good for you, Carl. You're getting blue-collared, albeit, you know, the hard way.
If I wanted to get blue-collared the hard way, I'd borrow Jasmine's short shorts and stand assumingly around the motel.
Covering our ears and pressing our heads to the seats in front of us, we endure the hick musical cavalcade, as Jasmine deemed the station. Glancing sidelong out the bus window, I see that we're less than a mile from home. My paw pads start to feel clammy and I clutch my knees tight. It's fortunate that Carl is currently occupied with boring his muzzle into the faux leather of the seat in front of him as I begin to tremble. Part of me actually wants him to see. I know it's just stalling for the inevitable, but I want to talk to someone, anyone, about all this. This is a small town. And whoever I speak to will know that I like guys, and I'll have to deal with them knowing that fact every day till college. If I go to college. I used to hate being so damn generic. Fucking Flynn whines about how boring I am all the time, but now all I can see are folks looking at me, realizing me as that otter who likes it up the rear and not as generic Chase. God. That's what my parents will see me as too. The sort of deviant who lives in their home. I imagine them looking at the photos of me around the house now and wishing they could have that back. I've never really talked to my parents about relationships and sex stuff, and now I'm just shocking them with this whole new side of me. What an anniversary present I've given them. I look over and see Carl hunched over, his horns pushing into the seat, his gaze focused blankly upon the screen of his handheld. Upon closer inspection, the screen is completely black, the device no longer on. It seems that he's not in the best of states either. I swallow, debating disturbing him. Carl might be my best friend, but we don't really have deep talks, especially since the lake incident. Maybe I could text someone. I slide my phone out of my pocket, staring at the black screen much like Carl is now. I realize when I get home, my parents are probably going to demand to see my phone and messages, so I'll have to remember to delete them. I tried to imagine how each one of my friends would react, but this is honestly foreign ground, only alluded to in traded insults and jokes. Flynn especially, the lizard drops the word faggot in every other sentence as of late, though I think he just chooses it for the maximum edginess. Jasmine, on the other hand, might be the most supportive with this sort of thing. However, she wasn't at school today. I eavesdropped Flynn mentioning something about issues with her parents and Jeremy to Leo, but I couldn't make out the specifics. I don't even know how Leo would react to any of this. He makes jokes about poofy stuff all the time, but I can tell there is some unease there. That leaves TJ. Carl described him once as the moral, gooey center of our sandwich of a group of friends. That being said, I'm not sure how much I can actually tell him. He's just barely crossing the puberty threshold right now. Plus the Christianity factor. I uncover one of my ears long enough to pull out my phone, my heart skipping a beat at the new voicemail notification. I quickly swipe over to my contacts. Ooh, I think I'm going to do this kind of in the same order of done Echo so far, so I'm going to start with Carl. I guess I just have to wait for the right opportunity. Right now, not being it. I'm about to slide my phone into my pocket when I feel it vibrate against the pads of my palm.
I got Gorgonzola at the mini market in Peyton.
Well, that's informative. I honestly have no idea what this message means. Instinctively, I try to respond with something jabby. I'm sorry, Flynn. I'm sure they have a cream for that. I don't usually ever text Flynn, mainly because he doesn't text back. So this is weird, I guess.
It's a type of salad, you musky fuck.
Oh. Thought it was a cheese? Whatever. Why are you texting me about salad? Valid question. Looking out the bus window, I can see that we're approaching Carl's stop. As the bus turns onto the neighborhood road, I scoot over some, speaking up to get Carl's attention. So, I'm getting off with you here, okay? Carl just continues staring at his blank screen for a second before blinking and looking back at me.
Are you sure? That might be pretty messy. And Karen watching might give me performance anxiety.
Carl stares deadpan at me. I rest my forehead into my paw and groan, though I end up snickering a bit. The bus comes to a stop. Carl, this is where you get off.
Ace wants to get off too.
The bus. You have a note from your folks? Shit. I look back to Carl and he gives me a look of understanding. He unslings his backpack from his shoulder, rifling through it. Carl looks up at me briefly, mouthing one word. Stall. Still a joke. Why not? I do! I make a motion of holding something up behind the seat. Carl seems to have found a pen and notepad and is scribbling hastily. So, Karen, how do you get a North Mountain State grad off your property? Karen gives me a rather dubious look, her silver gaze eyeing me up. You paying for the pizza! Ha ha! The old fox lets out a huff that is half exasperated, half amused. What in the hell? Be aware, Chase, my nephew from NMS is 6'9" and played rugby. He might not take too kindly to that. Hey, Carl's the one that told it to me. Carl puts on a show of giving me a slightly narrowed look before slugging my shoulder. I don't have nearly the same level of cushion there as Saram, so even if it's for show, it still hurts. I feel something flutter onto my lap. As I pick it up, I see that Carl has forged a note with my mother's signature nearly perfectly. As much as Saram whines about his lack of skill, his penmanship and art are not half bad. I give him a discreet, grateful look as we get up and move to exit the bus. Carl hops off first, his hooves make an audible clop sound upon the aged asphalt. However, as I move to hand my note to Karen, her calloused hand grasps my wrist instead of the note. I'm not that deaf and dumb, kitty. I've been doing this job a long while. She relinquishes my wrist, the note fluttering to the ground. I can feel Carl staring nervously at us from the road. You got awful comedic timing, Chase. But it was a good joke. I'll tell my nephew that one myself. She shifts some in her large driver's seat, the cadence of her voice changing some as she looks to the back of the bus. I saw you back there, puffy-eyed and trembling. You afraid of something at home? I know how the people can be out here. She pauses, bending down to pick up the dropped note before tossing it in the bus's trash bucket. I freeze, feeling the tips of my ears burn rosy at today's endless cavalcade of embarrassment. Especially with kids. I'm not sure what she means by that, and definitely not sure of what to say. I look back at Carl. He's averting his gaze now, his paws deep in his hoodie pockets. Alright. I get it. Nobody trusts the hick bus driver to know what it's like to be a kid these days. Look, run along now. Sorry for, grabbing you. I'm used to them shits Jeremy and Clint doing that and getting me in trouble. I try hard and force a smile. Oh, thanks. I appreciate your concern and all. Yeah, they're pretty shitty. Hey, language, kiddo. Sorry. Also, tell Carl his fly is down. It looks like a damn fool. I see Carl stiffen, quickly reaching down and fumbling with the zipper. His neon orange Superwolf boxers visible through his fly. Karen just sighs. I feel my phone vibrate within my pocket. See you squirts on Monday. Wait, bye to Karen, everyone. Bye. Bye. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.